New York Knicks insider Marc Berman believes that the Knicks are setting up a massive trade for up-and-coming centers Alperen Sengun or Jalen Duren, and we have to talk about this. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump right into the video, as we always do, because I know how we all feel about Marc Berman as Knicks fans. It's not lost on me that Berman might not be the best Knicks beat writer. As Mitchell Robinson said, Berman, relax. But, look, he recently was at the Mikal Bridges press conference that happened the other day, and Leon Rose was in the front row, and here's what Berman had to say on this. He said Leon was in the front row of the presser yesterday with Mikal's mother. He didn't talk, but he's still cooking. He wants to make a big center move after Philly's 2 additions. Heard Houston's Sengun has been on the radar, even Detroit's Jalen Duren, and that was before the Pistons signed Paul Reed. So I guess the thought process is that maybe the Pistons find that Duren is a little more expendable with Paul Reed now on their team and them also having Isaiah Stewart and a few other centers. But especially with James Wiseman leaving for the Indiana Pacers, I do not think that Jalen Duren is going to get traded. I don't see why the Pistons would trade a center who's on a rookie contract when they just gave Cade Cunningham a max extension that could turn into a super max extension. So that doesn't really make much sense to me. However, Alperen Sengun, I do think there's a chance that he will be moved in an effort for the Houston Rockets to save money, and if they don't believe that he can be the starting center on a championship team for them, the Rockets are trying to contend. I'm not sure why, but they're really thrusting themselves into contention first. They're going to continue to use these draft picks they have from the Nets. Obviously, they no longer have next year's because they gave it back to Brooklyn in a trade, but they're going to use all these draft picks they've gotten from the Brooklyn Nets in an effort to essentially go out there and make trades for stars and basically build a good team in a similar way that the New York Knicks did, where instead of building through one specific rookie, and it's not lost on me that Jalen Green is probably their best player, but they're mainly going to build through acquiring players from other teams. That's the Rockets' goal, and there has been some noise that Alperen Sengun actually could get moved. This is not the first time this has happened. Here we go. Tim McMahon in March said that they absolutely want to take a big swing in the trade market sooner rather than later, and he doesn't know if both Alperen Sengun and Jalen Green will be around long term. Now, Green had an awesome end to the season, and it's very likely that Jalen Green is going to stick around in Houston at this point. He's got a lot of potential to work with, and the Rockets do want to win now, so I doubt they'll trade Green unless it's Green in a package of picks for one hell of a star player that is not available on the market right now. So I assume they'd keep Jalen Green. But yeah, I guess the New York Knicks could be looking at Alperen Sengun. We do know this. I'm in a Karl-Anthony Towns video that came out earlier this morning, if you're watching this on Wednesday, July 10th. And as you guys know, I've talked about this before, I just do not like the idea of Karl-Anthony Towns on the Knicks at all. I think he's a bad defender who gets worse during the playoffs. He's being paid way too much money. He's not a true center. He's not a true power forward. He can't play a lick of defense. Keeps getting in foul trouble in the playoffs, where his numbers diminish and his shooting numbers go down. I have no interest in Karl-Anthony Towns playing for the Knicks. But when we look at what CP the franchise did say about this whole thing, and it's not there. There we go. He mentioned that the New York Knicks are interested in Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, CP also mentioned that he is not interested in the idea of Towns, but he is hooked up with the Knicks organization, and he basically broke down the fact that the Knicks, they see what Boston's doing with the 5-out system they're running, and they want to match that. As Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart mentioned on the Roommates podcast, teams kind of build themselves as the counter to a team that just won the championship. The Minnesota Timberwolves did that with the Denver Nuggets, and look what happened this year in the playoffs. The Minnesota Timberwolves eliminated the Denver Nuggets. The New York Knicks are now trying to do that with the Boston Celtics. Now, I thought the Timberwolves were the best team in the league last year. I was honestly very surprised they didn't win the NBA Finals. I didn't believe in them for a while, and now I still can't comprehend how they lost to Dallas. I never thought Dallas was as good as they performed. Maybe I'm wrong. They made the Finals, so I probably am wrong. But I thought Minnesota was the best team in the NBA last year. This year, I think they still could be if they keep around the whole team that they have going for them. But the Knicks are trying to do what Minnesota's doing, which is the right move. They're trying to counteract the Boston Celtics, the best team in the Eastern Conference and arguably the NBA's best team. It's weird I have to say arguably about the team that cruised to the NBA Finals, but with the amount of injury luck they had, which was more than usual, it is kind of like, yeah, they're probably the best team in the NBA because that's why they won the Finals. But it wasn't the hardest road. It was actually one of the easiest roads I've ever seen from a team that's not so ungodly overpowered like the 2017 Golden State Warriors. And the Knicks are doing that, and part of counteracting that would be building a 5-out offense. Sengun can do that. He's a phenomenal shooter. Now, let's take a look at Alperen Sengun's stats, and we're also going to talk about Jalen Duren for another minute and a second, but the Duren thing I don't see happening that much. Sengun put up 21 points per game along with 9 rebounds and 5 assists. The man is an offensive juggernaut. He gets over 1 steal a game. The problem is he's not a great low-post defender. All of his threes are assisted. He's a great shooter as far as centers go. He's great in the mid-range. Doesn't really shoot a ton of threes. Works in the mid-range mainly. The fact is his defense has not come along at all. You see that when he shoots threes, it's not that often at all. It's only 13% or 11% of his shots. Excuse me. All of them are assisted. He did not make one non-assisted three this year. He's a center. That's not that surprising. Doesn't shoot corner threes whatsoever. He's never in the corner. He's a center. Why would he? And essentially, what we see is a guy who's an offensive-based center. Now, that's similar to Karl Anthony Towns if the New York Knicks acquired him. Which, if you're following along with what I'm saying, I don't like the idea of this. Why would a Tom Thibodeau team have an offensive-based center? That goes against everything that happens in that system. And as long as Tibbs is here, and he's been a great coach for the Knicks, I don't see them going out there and getting an offensive center, and I don't see the point of it either. Like, you go out there, and yeah, your offense gets better, and you could run a 5-out system to counteract the Celtics. And then what, Porzingis just outplays Alperen Sengun? I don't think that helps. I'd rather Mitch be there and give Porzingis hell because Mitch is a phenomenal defender, and then Porzingis' defense doesn't have to be as big of a factor outside of off the help, where the Knicks can still just work a bunch of their screens as they do to get Brunson open. They still have Julius Randle against Boston, who is just the perfect guy for that series. He's such an X factor for the Knicks because no one on the Celtics can guard him. Drew Holiday's not big enough. Jason Tatum's not strong enough. Jalen Brown's not tall enough. There's no one on the Boston Celtics who can really guard Julius. Their best bet is Porzingis, who's kind of rail thin and injury prone, and Randall's a freight train. Do you really want to drag Porzingis out onto the perimeter coming off of a knee surgery to guard Julius Randle, who's not afraid to create a ton of contact? I understand Julius is coming off of an injury also, but it was more of a contact injury given it was a arm crashing into the floor contact injury, but still contact in nature of it. And essentially in that process, you have to wonder, why would the Celtics do that? And especially because if they drag Porzingis out onto the perimeter and Mitch is just sitting under the basket, no one's going to get a rebound over Mitch. So that would screw up the Celtics. I think what the Knicks have now is the perfect counteract to the Celtics. I don't think you can make a better starting five with the assets the Knicks have now than what they have now if you're trying to counteract Boston. Like, yeah, you're going to need a backup center. Look who Boston's backup center is. It's Al Horford, who's like, I don't know, somebody's grandfather at this point. Precious Achiuwa, if he comes back to the Knicks, is a fine option for that. Now, here's also the other part. If you want to save some money or something, and you want to bring in Jalen Duren, he's also an option, I guess, but at the same time, I don't see why the Pistons would trade a guy who last year put up 14 points and 11.5 rebounds while also getting 2.5 assists, which is very nice considering how bad they were. He fouls a lot, like all young, high-flying defensive centers. He gets a little under a block per game and a little under a steal per game. The defense is going to get better as time goes on. He's so young. He's only 20 years old. The Knicks actually, funny enough, picked the guy, but instantly trade him to Detroit for that depreciating in protection first-round pick that the Knicks do have from the Pistons, which will extend up until 2026. So there is a lot to look at there, but I don't think Jalen Duren has any chance of going to the Knicks at all. I really think that it's a scenario where what Berman said is just like, okay, it's fun to talk about. It definitely makes for fun discourse. I'm not making this video under the thought that the Knicks are now going to go out and trade for one of these two guys. I'm thinking it's fun for discourse. So before anyone's like, oh, why are you reporting this? Because it's fun to talk about. It's fun to create conversations about this stuff. And also, I don't know, Berman probably's got some info. Like, let's be real. He's not some bumbling idiot, I don't think. But I am, and that's why I made this video, but also to have some fun. So, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like, comment down below. What do you guys think on this? Will they go after one of them? Probably not. Would you like to see the Knicks go after one of them is a big question. Let me know in the comments down below. Have a phenomenal day, guys. We're on hump day, baby. We're almost at that weekend. Keep on pushing, everyone. Go Knicks.